Richard Melville Dick Nash didn't have the longest rodeo career, but it was a memorable one. From a young age, Nash grew up in Mantero, Saskatchewan, with a love for horses and an outdoor way of life. That love evolved from a passion into profession as he traveled throughout Canada and the United States competing in rodeos. Eventually, he came to be considered one of the best in the world.
He loved his bull riding and his bronc riding. He was very adept at both events, which he also took up steer wrestling too. And from what I understand, talking to his competitor friends and cousin Keith, is he was very good at he wanted to be perfection at everything he did. So
that rodeo business is kind of like a big family. Everybody knows everybody, you know. I mean, there's 500 cowboys, and you know every one of them. Well, Dick, he was great to travel with, and it was quite competitive. Like, Dick rode saddle broncs, and so was I, so we were, depending on who had the best animal, would win first, you know, and they paid for money, so.
As one of 12 kids growing up in his family, Nash left home at 16 to join the rodeo circuit, sending money home to help his family. In the early years, he earned more bruises than prize money, but he kept persevering and turned professional in the early 1950s. By that point, he was winning consistently on the rodeo circuit.
You always knew when Dad did well, because he always brought something home for all the kids. So, and at that point, Mom had already had 4 and 1 on the way. So you always knew when Dad did well, she said, because he always brought something home.
Although he never forgot his Saskatchewan roots, Nash married his wife in 1956 and moved to Alberta. However, that year was also memorable for other reasons. In 1956, Nash won the Canadian All-Around Championship and Canadian Bull Riding Championship, the first Saskatchewan cowboy to claim these titles. He also finished second in saddle bronc. Moving on to the World's Championship Rodeo, Nash claimed the World's Saddle Bronc title in Boston that same year. In addition to his national and international titles, Nash was a top bull rider at the prestigious Calgary Stampede Rodeo in 1956. For Nash, the Stampede was memorable for other reasons as well.
I do have the one story where he rode in front of the Queen at Calgary Stampede, and bucking horse threw him off over the fence, and he hung up by the spurs in the fence right in front of the Queen, and he looked over at her and said, "You might want to close your legs, dear."
The younger Nash has other fond memories of his dad while he was enjoying success competing in rodeos.
I have a special memory, and it's my dad setting me on the back of a big white Brahma bull right in Swift Current, Saskatchewan. It was Jerry Meyer's bull called Dirty Gertie. And I remember they called his name, and I would have only been a year and a half old. And they called his name, he pulled me off by my diaper, handed me to one of his friends behind the bucking chutes, and rode Dirty Gertie to win Swift Current Rodeo and to win the all-around at Swift Current.
Unfortunately, tragedy struck on June 10th, 1961. While competing at a rodeo in Hardisty, Alberta, Nash was kicked and stepped on by a bronc named Wagon Wheel. Nash died at the age of 31, competing in the sport he loved.
It was a tough deal after I talked to Leo, because he got killed in Hardisty, Alberta. He hung up to a bucking horse and punctured a lung and stuck a rib through his heart. And Keith Highland, who was his cousin, and Leo Brown, who was his traveling partner, they had to pack him home to my mom in Turner Valley from Hardisty in the back of a station wagon. He said it was devastating, very devastating.
It was terrible, because the horse was an ex-chuck wagon horse is what it was, a race horse, and he shouldn't even been in there to start with, because he had never been bucked before. See, he'd never been used before, so Dick was basically the first guy that was ever on him. He said the day before, when we knew what he had, he said, "I hate to get on that horse." He was staying at my mother and dad's, in my place. I had a place there, Mom and Dad's, and he was staying there. and I had flew to another rodeo. And when we got back in the airplane, we found out that the horse had killed him. And I went and picked him up from the morgue and took him to his parents' place.
He went to every rodeo to win. Even the Hardesty rodeo where he ended up losing his life was, he went there to win the bronc riding because he had bills to pay, and that's what he had already told Leo and Keith that I have to go get on this bucking horse. I don't like him, but I can win.
In 1991, Nash was honored as one of the pioneers of rodeo with a certificate from the Calgary Stampede for his contribution to the growth, development, and preservation of rodeo in general, and the Stampede in particular. He was also inducted in the Canadian Professional Rodeo Hall of Fame in 2001.
It means everything. It's a recognition of setting a path, I guess, for future Saskatchewan cowboys to do what Dad was the first to do.
Installed in the Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame on September 29, 2018, Dick Nash.